Welcome everybody out. And last week we talked about winter power outages as best we could, but we did get a little sidetracked. So to, tonight's episode will kind of be a continuation of that, uh, just with a different title. So as far as preparedness news today that I could gather, which wasn't too much, the markets were up today generally, um, except for some of the cryptos, and gold was kind of down most of the day, but end up after the stock market closed, it actually went up. But so we've been talking about diversification and maybe not being just totally in the stock market or any other market particularly. Gold was pretty flat today, but at one time it was down $20, which is not much when you're over $2,600. But goldbacks, I think they were down a little bit today. Silver was pretty much flat, although at one time it was down $1. Tilton zeros were up a few cents. Looks like they're kind of trying to put in a bottom. So one thing that could be a safe haven if we have a stock market bust. Wheat was down a penny today at 536. I think anything in the low fives is a gift right now. A couple of ETFs that PDBA is an agricultural ETF, and PDBC is more energy and precious metals ETFs. So those could be good inflation hedges. And industrial military complex is just clicking along with what's going on around the world. It's probably a good alternative if you just got to stay in the stock market. That might be a place to find some refuge. U.S. oil was down today. It's been on a tear. This is the first day it's been down in about a week, but got close to $80, but down under 76 right now. So I guess people with a lot of money are thinking that the Middle East situation is gonna blow over, and hopefully it will. Bitcoin was 10, I'm not sure. I didn't update these numbers. I think Bitcoin was like 63 today. And Ethereum was down a little bit also. No major moves. They're both kind of on pivot points, trying to decide what they're going to do. I think they're going to be steady until seems to be pretty well correlated to the stock market right now, especially the Nasdaq. For some reason, it's a risk on asset. It's not digital gold yet. Maybe in the future, but it's not yet. Another company that's announced layoffs was the company that out of Idaho that supplies 90% of the French fries to McDonald's. They're closing down their Washington State plant. Just going with the Idaho plant. I think 475 jobs or something like that.
Wow.
So that's just a kind of indication that McDonald's isn't selling a lot of stuff. You know, it's pretty bad when people can't afford to eat at McDonald's anymore.
Truly. Right. Bill and I have talked about how expensive fast food is. I mean, right. It used to be a complaint that you'd go out to a semi-decent restaurant, and it was expensive. And now Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King, they're all expensive, shockingly expensive.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I
easy.
picked up a cup and literally maybe 8 to 10 ounces of chili today, the large one, and it was $4.38.
For eight
The,
to 10 ounces of chili.
yeah, I remember
Shocking.
when the small one and a potato, you could buy the two of those, and I could make a lunch out of it for just over $2.
Mm-hmm. And not too long ago.
No, not
Right?
that long ago. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we're not talking about our childhood when hamburgers were 5 for $1, you know.
Yeah.
Get a,
Well,
get
I
a,
was thinking
get
20
a
cents at
stack of
least.
them.
So, yeah.
We'd go buy a sack of burgers on our way to the drive-in, and watch a movie and have hamburgers as a family
Fun.
for $1.
Yeah.
Cheap family entertainment and food.
So I've made it a plan to talk about a water plan every week, and also an unemployment plan. I think both of those we need to keep in mind that we're at risk of. So it's my mentioning it at least. And of course we've got Hurricane Helene, which is still in. People are in deep trouble who got hit by that, with Hurricane Milton right on the doorsteps of Florida.
Yeah.
At least hopefully it's only going to affect Florida. Probably
But
better.
it might wipe it out too. That
Yeah.
whole the peninsula right there might become an island and a stubby peninsula, the way it sounds.
Yeah. Sounds bad. And the other thing, anybody heard anything about the port workers going back to work?
I haven't heard
I
anything else other than that they were supposed to be.
Yeah, I thought it was solved like the very next day that they were going back, but I haven't paid attention to it.
But as I understand it, they ain't going back to work. So
It's solved, but not solved.
yeah, well, I think they were ready for a fall break or something. I'm not sure, but
Oh, is that what it is?
so they were talking about it might be another week before they actually do anything. So I don't know. Um, there's no recent news, but there's no old news that says they're working. Maybe when I go back to work tomorrow, I can find that out. But if they're actually doing anything. So we got port strike, maybe still on, maybe not. War in the Middle
Oh,
East.
so do you know what? I'm just looking it up right now. It's saying striking port workers will return to work on Friday as negotiations reach an agreement. And that was 5 days ago. So this Friday would be the Friday that they expect them to go back.
Okay. They were just ready for a little time off, a little R&R.
Yeah.
Celebrate their win.
Yeah, exactly. By not going back to work.
Yeah. And so I'm not sure what's going on in the Middle East right now. I guess everybody's just waiting for Israel to retaliate or Iran to step up another shot or something, but hard to keep up with what's going on over there day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just in today on Zero Hedge. I saw just days after an international bird flu summit in Washington, D.C., we get reports that new cases of bird flu in humans have been reported in California.
Oh, that seems a little suspect.
Yeah, that's a coincidence.
It'd be interesting to know who in California, what type of personnel is that they found that in.
Yeah.
Right? Is it somebody that works on a farm or a ranch or right? Is it just casual people? It'd be interesting to know who's affected by that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Y'all having been sort of Californians. You ever heard of Valley flu?
Oh, yeah, even I have.
I know about Valley fever.
Yeah, Valley
Is it the
fever.
same thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, anyway,
Nasty stuff.
that's a coccidia um, uh, fungal infection of the lungs, and we have it in animals quite frequently, but there it's in the digestive tract and causes diarrhea and stuff. But apparently that valley fever is like up up 2,000% in the last 5 years or so, and really bad,
Wow.
really bad now apparently. And it was like in the southern part of the Joaquin Valley
Uh-huh.
and down in Arizona historically, but now it's moved up into the northern half of the valley.
Interesting. We had friends when we lived there that were dealing with valley fever, right? Huge spans of antibiotics that they would put you on. And they say it can lay dormant for a long time. And for a while they were saying, oh, it's because you're out digging in your garden. And then somebody else said, no, it's not. It's just in the air, right? The big plow fields come through and whatnot. So yeah,
But
it's quite real.
yeah, I'd never heard of it before, but when they mentioned it was a coccidia, that kind of piqued my attention, but
Hmm.
didn't know about that. But apparently it grows, you know, mycelium in the ground, like a mushroom, and then
Yeah.
that gets disturbed and airborne, and especially released after earthquakes, apparently.
Oh, so are they thinking that it's deep in the earth?
Well, not that deep apparently, but just
Yeah, my little bit of knowledge is that just farmers plowing or
yeah.
heavy windstorm comes through, or right that it disturbs it and brings it up.
Yeah. So anyway, and by the way, apparently antibiotics do nothing for it.
Which
That's
I've got friends that were on huge regimens for long periods of time of antibiotics.
right, and they're saying that what you really need to be on is antifungals, and they're not working because the coccidia has developed a resistance to it from all the fungals that are sprayed on the agricultural crops there.
Oh, great.
So anyway, apparently there's not much you can do for it nowadays. Just just another little pleasantry.
Awesome.
So anyway, seasonal information. So we're still in prime tree planting time period, and kind of over the tail end of being able to plant anything in the garden other than maybe garlic. Still got time on that. Um, I actually got my sweet potatoes harvested yesterday and today.
How'd they look?
I'll show pictures here in a minute.
Oh, excellent. Do you know what? Cilantro here around our house does amazing during the winter time.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So I feel like
On the
that's another
front
one that I could
face.
go out and sprinkle seed and it'd do amazing through
yeah,
winter.
yeah, and probably arugula and probably radishes, regular radishes, would probably still make.
Hmm.
But it was pretty cool this morning. We could have a frost in the next week or two.
Oh, darn. That means I've got plants that need to come back in the house, and that makes me sad.
Not ready for that one yet, huh?
No, no, because I feel like I bring them inside, and even though I give them a good light source and I water them, they struggle, right? And so when I take them outside for the summer, it's like all of a sudden they start looking beautiful again. And it's all of a sudden it's time to bring them back in, and that's sad.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. It's just you're just trying to keep them alive through the winter, and then
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I tell them that just 4 more months,
yeah,
I can take you back out. Just hang in there.
yeah. I gotta go cut off some Mexican spinach and gotta get that winter through the winter again.
Oh, do you know what? I haven't looked at mine for a while.
Well, it
I should go out and look at it.
should be ready for harvest. Mine's definitely really bushy. And
I will. I'll go out and look at it.
good time to harvest mullein and comfrey also. And
Liz and I had talked about hitting up a field that's not too far from my place that had quite a bit of mullein standing in it.
mhm.
Maybe I should go over there and sneak through their field.
We'll have to go over incognito,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
find
just
someplace to park.
read recently that mullein is uh, aside from all of its lung benefits, which it might even cure valley fever. I don't know, but it's also a good wormer because the way it helps your bronchitis and stuff is it kind of anesthetizes your throat area, and it does the same thing in your intestines for worms, and so they let go and are passed on out.
Interesting.
So I just got to figure out how to get my sheep to eat it. So anybody bought a hunting license or used it or?
No, but I thought about it. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I don't think that's a bad idea to have one.
I haven't bought one in several years because I can hunt on my place without one. But yeah, it, to get a hunting and fishing license for everything is about $100 nowadays. So it's kind of an investment.
And then there's the investment that I would have to do to take the class.
A hunter safety class?
Uh-huh. I've never taken one. And I've never had a hunting license. Well, yes, I did. In Texas, I had one to go pheasant hunting once.
Do they require the class in order to get your hunting license?
I think it depends on how old you are and if you, I think I'm trying to remember what it is in Virginia, or if you're grandfathered from having a hunting license before. Uh, I think it's anybody born before 19. I can't remember if it's 1960 or 1964. Is
Are you qualifying for that, Tammy?
I'm 62. I was born in 62.
You might be borderline.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way they started it to grandfather people in many years ago.
Mhm.
So, and of course, you can get our IOSAT locally at Yoder's apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It may not be IOSAT, but at least it's potassium iodine.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
That brain. So, any progress anybody would like to share? I've thought about wood cutting, but had too many other irons in the fire.
Yeah, we actually don't even have a wood burning stove. We've got a flue downstairs, but it's not connected to anything. And I think that actually lowered our insurance on the house by not having a wood burning stove. But we've got a fire pit that wouldn't do a whole lot of good if it was cold inside. It's far enough away.
Yeah. Yeah. Or wet outside.
Yeah, very wet and cold outside.
Yeah, there's people in North Carolina had a lot of wood outside, but it's pretty hard to burn it.
Yeah.
Wood and water everywhere. So Yeah, long term, that might be something to think about is putting something in that flue.
Yeah. We've got enough trees around us, right?
Buying some gold backs or some brass and lead or primers. Those things I think are good storage items and barter items. So anyway, what I did get a little bit down, this was the jungle that were my sweet potatoes.
Nice.
That's what they look like yesterday morning, or yesterday afternoon, actually. Then after that, jungle was removed. It looked like that.
A desolation.
Yeah. Tribulation or desolation or whatever they call it. But I got something for the sheep as a bonus, and they thoroughly enjoyed that cart of vines. That's why I say everybody should have some animals. Nothing goes to waste. So anyway,
Yep.
after they magically rose from the dirt, they were resurrected. This was what I had in that bed. It was desolate a moment ago, and I just took the ones that I could pull out with a gloved hand and set them where they stood. And there was some, you can see over here, there was some places that were totally barren. They didn't produce those hills at all. They produced one little potato, so I didn't get a real good crop. But after they were washed and on the picnic table, that's what I came up with, which
Those look great.
they weren't as large as normal or as numerous as normal, but there'll be enough for us and to have we'll make starts out of the small ones, eat the big ones. I mean, there was a few that were this one, probably this one, were over a foot long, but most of them were smaller.
Mm-hmm. You were saying to take the small ones and make them starts. Does that mean that genetically they'll produce sweet potatoes that are small?
No, and that's why I can use them. It's all they've all got the same genetics in them, whether they're a foot long or
It
3
was just developmental stage that they were in.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
yeah. That's according to the guy that wrote the book, Danny from Deep South Homestead. Anyway, he's been growing them for about 50 years. And that's what he says. So I'll take his word for it.
So by laying them out on the picnic table, are you curing them, giving them a little bit of a harder skin?
Yeah, I'll leave them there for a couple of days before I bring them in.
Yeah.
Let them dry a bit more.
Do you pack them in sand or you just pack them dry?
Dry. Just try to have a place to spread them out, kind of like they are there too inside, because they're still going to have quite a bit of moisture.
Excellent.
But anyway, should have enough for us. I haven't weighed them yet, but may or may not. But I'm suspecting there's probably less than 50 pounds there, which some years I've gotten as high as 130 pounds from one of those beds. So it's definitely down, but still a good respectable crop.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of looking at growing a lot of things this year, maybe not on purpose, but just as a seed crop. I'm harvesting more seeds than anything else from it, so
Uh-huh.
be prepared for next year.
Nice.
So the subject tonight is, are you prepared for winter? Got a little video that'll give us something to talk about, hopefully. This gal lives in Maine, so keep that in mind. She probably knows a lot more about winter than we do.
Hey everyone, welcome to Homestead Corner. I'm Jenny, and today I want to talk about preparing for winter emergencies. I know it's pretty warm today and we're still in summer, but we have got to get ready for winter because it's going to be here before we know it. We're already seeing cooler nights here in Maine, and we are going to continue to get cooler and cooler, just the way it always is. But we need to make sure that we're ready for these winter emergencies. If we are not prepared, we could be stuck. It could be horrible. It could definitely be life-threatening depending on what the situation is. So making sure we've got everything we need beforehand is going to help us in the long run. So when something happens, we're already prepared for it. So today I thought I would just go over some of the things that we look at to make sure we are prepared for winter. So one of the first things that we always do to prepare for winter is to look at our emergency bags that we already have made. If you don't have an emergency bag, now is a great time to put one together. We always keep bug out bags, get home bags, a bunch of different kinds of emergency bags, and we keep them, there's always emergency bags in the car, and we like to go in and switch things out when the seasons are getting ready to change. Right now we have lighter weight clothing in there. We don't have all that extra winter gear in our emergency bags, but now's a great time to really look at what you have. Check your food and your expiration dates, things like that. Maybe you want to rotate out your food, rotate out your water. We like to do that every 6 months or so. We also like to add gloves, extra layers of clothing. It doesn't have to be big, huge jackets or anything like that, but having extra layers that you can put on is definitely wonderful for winter time, and that way you can adjust your layers as needed. If you have to start hiking, you can peel stuff off. We definitely want to make sure that we've got all that stuff: hats, gloves, scarves, extra socks. We keep those in there all the time. Extra layers of clothing, all the stuff that you're going to want for winter time. Hot hands are wonderful. You can put them in your boots, in your pockets, in your gloves, in anywhere you want to put them, really, and they will help keep you warm, and they're pretty inexpensive. I've even seen them at Dollar Tree. You can get a pair of them for $1.25. So we usually get the big huge packs because they're a lot cheaper that way. The next thing we do right now is go through our pantries. We want to make sure that our pantry is as stocked as possible. With ice and snow and all the different things that can happen, hurricane season is coming as well. We want to make sure we've got everything we need in the house. If we have to hunker down, we can. Sometimes when it snows, if it snows for days and days and days, and then it may take a couple days for them to clean up the road, it could be a week that we're not able to go to the store, and that's okay. okay. We want to make sure that we've got everything. If that happens, we're prepared for it and everything's going to be just fine. So making sure that we are all stocked up on those everyday items, some comfort foods, because I think those are so important, especially if your routine is disrupted, anything like that. If an emergency happens to be something that's extra stressful for you, making sure you have those comfort items is really important. And, you know, your everyday items are important as well. And making sure you have stuff for those emergencies when the grid goes down. So instant open and eat foods or just add hot water. Those are always wonderful in your pantry. We also like to double check on our grid down heating and lighting, making sure that we've got plenty of batteries. Batteries are charged for the rechargeable ones, things like that, making sure those things are prepared. It is not uncommon to lose the electricity here in Maine. Happens quite a lot in the wintertime where we are. Some places definitely don't lose it as much, but out in the country, you tend to lose it a little bit more and they're not as quick to repair it. So making sure we're all stocked up on those things. We've got the fuel and the gear and all the things that we need. So making sure you have plenty of your, if you're using propane or wood or whatever it is, making sure you have plenty of that, your fire starters and oil for your lanterns, flashlights, whatever you are planning on using, making sure you've got all the supplies to keep them running for an extended period of time if you need to. This is also a great time to go over your grid down cooking items. How are you going to cook? If it's in the winter time, do you have a way to cook inside, or are you going to have to go outside to cook? These are things you definitely want to think about and prepare for. And your cookware, the condition of your cookware and the types of cookware that you have. Because if you're cooking outside or on a wood stove, you definitely want something more heavy duty than those flimsy frying pans you can get at your local Walmart or Target or anything like that. You're going to want some good, decent, solid cookware. We love cast iron because it can handle the heat on the open fire outside. It can also handle being on the wood stove inside. So we want to make sure that we've got our grid down cooking and how we're going to cook, making sure we've got that all together so we have it, we know where it is, and we know that everything's in working order. And if you plan on using candles or fuel or whatever it is, making sure that you've got plenty of that in stock. So if you are without electricity for weeks, you're going to be just fine as long as you have everything prepared. Also looking into, are you going to need a microclimate? If your power was to go down and you don't have heat for your entire home or apartment or wherever you're living, if you don't have enough heat to heat the whole thing, you may have to close off and stay in one room, which can definitely be helpful. And, you know, if your heating source isn't powerful enough to do everywhere in the house, you want to at least have one room that is comfortable enough for you to stay in with your family. And you may even want to conserve on your fuel, having a small tent and creating a microclimate. Let's say everybody's staying in the kitchen or the living room, just setting a small tent in there that everybody can fit in. Your body heat is going to warm up that tent. And, you know, with layers of blankets and things like that, it really can keep you nice and warm. Even just a small candle lantern so you can see in there. But making sure if you're going to need a microclimate, or making sure that you can create it if you need it. And if you've never set it up, try doing that, definitely, because it may be more difficult than you think. A lot of times we think, oh, that looks easy. I saw someone else do it on YouTube. Simple. But it's not always as easy as it looks. We need to remember that, you know, the first time we do it is usually a lot more difficult. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So making sure we've got all that stuff and we're prepared is going to be extremely helpful for you and your family. We also love to check on our tarps, plastic, duct tape, any kind of fastener if you're going to screw them to the wall or, you know, tape them up, however you want to do it. Use tacks. If you have to, everyone has to stay in a room, it's nice to have tarps or plastic so you can block doors off to hold that heat in. Also, if you have to cover windows, anything like that, sometimes you want to plastic your windows just to give you a little bit more insulation to help out with drafts and things like that. I know a lot of people cover their windows in the winter time, and we have a few that we do as well because they're old windows and they still work, but they're a little drafty and not quite so great for keeping the cold out. We also like to go through our winter gear right now. Yes, it's hot, but slipping on that jacket just for a few minutes, a few seconds, just to make sure it fits still, it fits really comfortably. You've got some room in it. If it's too tight, it's not going to keep you as warm. Looser clothing is definitely better in the cold weather. So having stuff that you've got room in, you can move around. If you have to wear your coat in the house, you definitely want to be able to be comfortable in it. And our boots, things like that, hats, mittens, gloves, any kind of extra clothing. A lot of people will wear sweatpants underneath their other pants just to add that extra layer of insulation. Making sure we're all ready with those clothing things is really important. We've got them when it's time. And I'm seeing a little bit of old like last year's winter stuff is on clearance right now. So if you're short on something or something's not quite in great condition or fitting quite right, now would be a good time to snag it up either off the clearance rack, yard sale, thrift store, anything like that, just so you've got it. You don't have to spend a ton of money, just something that's going to work for you. And with the possibility of grid down, I think right now is a great time to look at your fire alarms, fire extinguishers, fire blankets for if you're going to be cooking with open fire in your kitchen. Even with candles, it can get dangerous if you've got open flames. So making sure we have all that stuff, everything's in good condition and ready to go when we need it, and handy. We want to have these things handy so they are ready to use. So we keep a fire blanket right inside the pan cabinet, right next to the stove. If there's a fire, you can just rip it right out and you've got the fire blanket to cover it over. Those are wonderful and pretty affordable. I think ours were around $10 a piece, and definitely worth their weight in gold if you have a fire. You want to be able to contain it and make sure that everything is going to be okay without your whole place burning down. So checking on those fire extinguishers, changing batteries in your fire alarms if you need to, carbon monoxide detectors, whatever it is that you have, making sure you've got all of that ready for winter can definitely be a lifesaver. The next thing we like to do is go through our first aid supplies. When we're prepping for winter or any time that we're thinking about the next season or the season after, whenever we're going through stuff, we always like to make sure that we are checking on our first aid supplies. They can be life-saving. You can get infection really easy if you're not covering up cuts and things like that. So making sure we've got all those first aid supplies is super important, and making sure they're ready to go. Your first aid kits are filled up and you have all the things you need. So while we're going through our winter preps and making sure we've got everything we need, we also like to get them organized and make sure that everything is where we can find it. Because if you can't find it, you might as well not have it. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.
Okay. If you can't find it, you don't have it. I've heard of that happening before.
Huh.
What is she talking about?
Huh.
Any that spark any interest or ideas?
Do you know what? I appreciate the thought process on the propane. Even though we have automatic refill with the co-op, we have run completely out of propane twice because they've watched us and they know our usage, and then they'll whatever, and they come out and fill us up. But now all of a sudden I'm going, I'm going to go look and have them fill that, only because I feel like if dire times are coming, those costs are going to rise significantly, and who knows availability,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that, and if your tank goes dead in the middle of the wintertime, coming up your hill might not be an easy thing for that big truck.
Yeah, true.
I would definitely make sure that you had a full tank before any snows might come or ice. Your move in was bad enough.
Yeah, it was pretty hairy.
Yeah, they just filled ours, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and I was surprised at how low it was, how much they put in it. It was several $100s worth, That's going
And
down.
that is just a blink, right? It's like, great. Yeah, I'd rather have them do it now when I'm thinking about it than do it when it's hard to come by and super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was pretty expensive already.
Yeah,
some,
for sure.
something I heard from somebody who had taken food to North Carolina and was giving it out as on the way up. They had just stopped by I don't know whether it was Walmart or wherever, but they picked up 1 pound packages of rice and beans. And they thought, that'll be a great thing to hand out, to people that don't have anything to eat. And they found out that they could not give away rice and beans to these people.
Wow. They didn't know what to do with it, or they didn't know,
Well,
they just didn't want it.
they didn't really ask the people. The one family that they particularly, tried to convince to take it, they found out that they had just hiked 11 miles down the mountain, and they were going to fill up their bodies, and they had limited amounts of weight they could take back up into the hills for the 11 miles trip home. And, for them, it was a weight issue. And they end up leaving with granola bars and chips and nabs and stuff like that, no real food.
Yeah, right. They don't understand that nutritional balance that rice and beans have.
Yeah.
They're going to have the carbs without any of the nutrition.
Right.
Do it.
So
Right.
so anyway, but part of that may be too that they either don't know how to cook it or don't have the ability to cook it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
almost nobody's got any electricity back yet, and so if their cooking is dependent on electricity, they which comes back to the idea of we probably need at least a month or two worth of open and eat stuff, that if if you had to, you could eat it cold.
Mm-hmm.
But
Our canned chicken, you can open that and eat it just like it is because it's cooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
but now, Liz just brought home a case or two of pop top black beans, and that was the other thing that all the relief agencies were requesting, that any canned goods be pop tops.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a can opener. I mean,
And some
Nope,
of them
they
might not.
don't. Yeah. They've got an electric can opener. They've never thought of, oh, I should really have a hand can opener, right? We've got several, and none of them are really good. I feel like I grew up with a hand opening can opener, one for my entire life, but we've been through several and they're still not,
yeah.
they're not great
Oh,
these days.
I've bought KitchenAid and some of the best names of stuff, and
Yes.
they last a very short time.
Yeah, I think
But I
Yeah.
still go with the heaviest one I can get because those last longer than the other little ones that we used as children.
yeah, she seems to
Yeah.
find pretty good quality, and we get maybe a year out of them, you know.
Oh, I think
hmm
we might get 3 or 4 years, but then you still, after this many years, we have gone through a lot of them. Even if
Yeah.
they last 3 years, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like as a child, they just lasted for forever, and we seem to go through them quite rapidly.
and the cans aren't that much stronger.
No, in fact, you know what? That's one reason why I don't really like the pop tops, is because just the theory behind you can open it means that there's a seam in there, that little round pop tart spot, is the
Can
weakest part of
break
the can.
loose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weak link in that can.
Yeah, if it was to freeze, it would probably definitely be spoiled.
Uh-huh. You're right. You're right. The other thing that she talked about was kind of reclusing into a room for that heat and cold. And that's what we did the year that we moved in. We set all of us into the theater room because there's no windows, it's interior. And we put candles on a mirror to give the room more light. And it was quite comfortable in the theater room for cold temps, for just being around. It worked really well for us.
You moved here in such horrible weather.
Which was funny because our realtor was saying, "Oh no, it's just a little skiff now and again, and it melts. And a couple of days later, the kids are back in school." And we moved in, and I don't think Raiden went to school for 3 weeks after moving in.
Yeah.
Right? It was pretty harsh weather that we moved into.
The first year as we opened our store, it snowed every week, and they had to keep pushing the snow off of the parking lot. And we had a mountain just off of the parking lot by
Of
the
snow.
end of, by March. It was like that will never melt.
Yeah,
It was
truly.
huge. It was huge. And we were one of the smaller mountains because our parking lot wasn't that big compared to over where, good heavens, what's over there now? That was even there at the same time. Big Lots and all of that parking lot was much bigger.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I think one of the things, you know, we've got a lot of dried beans, you know, around, but we rarely fix them. And part of it is just, you know, that it takes you know, 24 hour ahead of time planning, and you know, you get busy, you get working, and you know, I can open up a can of those beans and put some onions in a pan to wilt down, and go out the front door and grab a stalk of oregano and strip the leaves off of it and put it in that pan, and you know, have a pretty nutritious meal, you know, in 15 minutes. And,
Yeah. So I bottle my dry beans. And so wintertime is my favorite time to do it because I run them through my pressure canner. But I've got the routine down to where I put literally washed but dry beans in a jar with water, throw it through my pressure canner. No salt usually, so that I can salt it depending on the dish I'm doing. And then I do exactly the same thing that you're saying. I just crack open a jar of beans that I put in there, super cheap. Last time I really did a cost on it, it was maybe about 30 cents for a pint jar for
Okay,
dry
now
beans.
you have to add in those lids.
Well, do you know what though, Liz? I still have lids that I brought from California when we had a farm store going out of business, and I bought lids for 10 cents a box.
Well, Winston had bought me a whole case of regular and a whole case of wide ones. But
Uh-huh.
we have gone through those now, and I have been restocking and ordering and everything and getting the best price. But that is another consideration. Also, I found a jar lifter, anyway, to be able to save the flat, like we had been
Oh,
talking
yeah, yeah, yeah.
about.
I know
But it
exactly which one
just,
you're talking about.
yeah. And so, because I did all these peaches for Crystal, I'm telling her start saving those flats. But yesterday, I had ordered one for her and gave her one of those lifters so it won't um, dent the flats, so we can reuse those. Told her
Uh-huh.
to start saving them.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody screams and yells and you can't use those, but I absolutely reuse mine.
Yeah. But coming up with a good lifter that won't um, ruin the seal, I think
Bill
has
pulls
been
them off
a
with his
very big one.
fingers.
Oh, not me. Oh,
Yeah,
that
Bill
sounds
can.
painful.
I can't, but he just grasps over the top and just pops them off. Right?
Oh,
So, yeah. Yep. But I have seen those lid lifters. I looked into them a while ago. Bill's sister has one, and I looked into them, but uh they're expensive. They're
I
expensive, right?
this one's not.
I think it was about $8.
That's very inexpensive. So send
Uh-huh.
me a picture of yours.
Yeah, it was on Amazon. I will send you that link.
Perfect. Perfect.
But anyway, the other thing I think we should talk about for a minute anyway is how about your car? Is it prepared for winter? Um,
Is it prepared for fall?
I guess that's a good point. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, used to there was a lot of maintenance people talked about. I mean, they used to change tires and um, make sure the antifreeze was good and all that stuff. And you don't hear much about that anymore now that we got all season radials and people keep antifreeze in their car. Winter, summer, the same
Yeah,
stuff
all the time.
all the
Hmm.
time.
I
So
was in Portland for some reason in the wintertime, and it must have been after you had left when Waverly was born. But people came in with these real snow tires with lugs on the tires, and hearing those on the roads, those
Yeah,
big,
for
massive
sure.
tires. Thought, boy, you don't live where I live.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I had not been around that ever before. I was taught a lesson.
yeah, I'd seen that.
Yeah.
I'd seen that in Colorado too, where they have the studs in their tires.
So what kind of maintenance do you do for your cars before winter time?
Well, I think in this zone, which is considered like a transition zone to the north, um, probably just normal. Make sure it's in good repair. I would say
Okay.
nothing really that special.
Perfect. Perfect.
Make sure you don't have bald tires. That need to be replaced anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But small engines, that's another story. Like if we're talking chainsaws, generators, lawnmowers, weed eaters, all this, lot of us have, maybe 8 or 10 small engines around that if you don't do anything to them, you may not have good results when you actually need them in the spring or like generators and chainsaws that you will probably use in the wintertime. Maybe they won't start when you really need them.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of two pressure washer. If you got pressure washer, that's one that requires more maintenance than most, and that you gotta put a pump kit on it that puts antifreeze into the pump so it doesn't freeze and break. Um, but chainsaws, we'll probably use well, we will definitely use those. So both electric and gas during the winter. And if you had to cut your way out to the road, you definitely want that to start. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
if you got electric, make sure keep the battery charged up, and gasoline, and those the oil mix will have fuel stabilizer in it, so just keep it full and sharp and ready to go. Um, and all your other small engines, there's kind of two ways of looking at it. One is to store it full of fuel in the tank with fuel stabilizer in it. The other that I tend to prefer is to run all the gas out of it the last time you use it. If it's something that you're not going to, our riding mowers we use all winter.
Uh-huh.
The animals and stuff, but pull carts and stuff. But if not, I prefer to run the fuel out of push mowers and stuff, and then spray WD-40 into the pull off the air cleaner and spray WD-40 into the carburetor, and
And then store it that way.
yeah, pull it one time to suck that into the carburetor and into the cylinder. So,
We got taught a lot of this by the service technicians that came into the store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good knowledge.
if you just let regular gas, especially if and we burn non-ethanol gas all the time in our small engines. We don't burn ethanol gas in it because ethanol gas in particular, if you put it in the fall, I'll pretty much guarantee that engine probably won't start in the spring.
It'll be all gummed up.
Yeah, and the ethanol is what they call it, hydroscopic. It absorbs water. It loves to bring in water into your tank.
Thanks a lot.
Mix with your gas, so you might be half water by the time spring comes around. Of course, that causes rust and other things in your carburetor. Anyway, that's my tip for the night.
Excellent.
Anything else that we want to talk about?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll see.